What's up, you guys? We're talking UFC 318, which is taking place in my old stomping grounds, the NO, New Orleans. Now, it's only fitting that this card takes place in Louisiana, as in the headliner, we have the retirement bout of one of the greatest to have ever done it, certainly one of the greatest to have never been a legitimate UFC champion in Dustin Poirier. He'll be taking on Max Holloway for the third time. He already has 2 W's over him, but I mean, no one's complaining here. I mean, this is going to be an exhilarating bout. I think we would all sign up to watch these two men fight over 100 times. I did almost slip up there for a second and say DP, the greatest fighter to ever represent the state of Louisiana, but you can't sleep on my boy DC there. DC, a champion of multiple weight classes, certainly number one to represent Louisiana. I think that we could safely say Poirier is number 2. Let me know if I'm forgetting somebody. Now, you have to comment below and let me know what your thoughts are about this fight card, because I cannot remember the last time that we've had a pay-per-view event with so many drastically different opinions about it. I've been seeing people jump off the roofs saying how stacked this event is, and then I also see a lot of people that are saying it's extremely overrated, it's very lackluster, there's not a lot of star power on it. Essentially, it's a pay-per-view event that is revolved around the retirement bout of Poirier, and he's in a matchup that doesn't really make all the sense in the world, as he already defeated Max Holloway twice. You know, I've been seeing that, and I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. If anything, I do lean more towards it being a little overrated when you actually dissect it, right? You got Patricio Pitbull on the main card, but I mean, he's coming off a UFC debut performance that I was sitting cage side. You guys know I was sitting behind Donald Trump there, and he did not show up whatsoever. So how much stock do you put into his match against Dan Ige? Paulo Costa hasn't really won a fight in a long time. He's not active, and he's not going out there and landing those big KOs like he used to. I mean, I guess depending on how you feel about Kevin Holland against D-Rod, Kevin Holland, you guys know how I feel about him, but and then you got Michael Johnson taking on Daniel Zellhuber. I mean, that's a great fight from an entertainment standpoint, but as far as star power goes, I mean, what are we talking here? I do want to mention 3 young fighters that have a world of potential that are going to be fighting on the prelims, in Islam Dulatov, who will be making his UFC debut. Definitely got to mention Ateba, Gautier, who is an absolute stud, and he's coming off a hell of a KO victory. And then I also just want to mention Vinicius de Oliveira, Loke Dog, who now has 3 wins under his belt in the UFC, and that's a fighter that has some serious potential. So, I mean, the prelims are pretty stacked. We got 14 fights to talk about. If you're new to the channel, please, guys, hit that subscribe button. If everybody could smash the like button. If you want to work with me for my official plays, you guys know the deal. Shoot me an email or DM me on Instagram. And if you sign up through my referral link to Bovada, I will give you my entire slate for this card for free. And I mean, we could chat it up more in the comment section. Meet me there. I mean, we might as well just jump right into this thing. Let's go talk some action.
The teller.
The first fight we'll be talking about is taking place in the middleweight division, where we have Brunno the Hulk Ferreira taking on the Moose Jackson McVey. Now, if you guys remember, McVey was supposed to be fighting on that UFC 317 fight card. Unfortunately for him, both fighters that he was matched up against were not able to make the walk. Dumas wasn't able to get his leg out of the front door due to that ankle monitor. And then Ewert, a fighter that would have been making his UFC debut as well, wasn't able to make the walk. But here McVey is, and the first thing that stands out to me is McVey is going to have a huge size advantage. Okay, he's already a very big middleweight fighter. Ferreira is an undersized middleweight fighter. He's very small and compact. I think that is an X factor in this fight. From there, I think you have to slide over to the conversation of which fighter is going to look better in the later rounds, if it goes there, which is a huge if. But if it goes to the second and third rounds, who's going to have better cardio? Because there's major question marks about both of these fighters. Ferreira has hardly ever left the first round as a professional, as McVey has never left the first round as a pro. Now, the good thing for Ferreira is in his last 2 fights, we finally started to see him get in some late action. And when you look at his last bout against Arman Petrosian, he pulled off a submission there at the very end of the second round. And I think that we saw him pacing himself a little bit better. He's a little bit more of a mature fighter these days. Okay, so he has that experience factor compared to a fighter in McVey who you should note, has a good amount of amateur experience and has left the first round as an amateur. But as a pro, I mean, his fights aren't lasting much longer than a few seconds, which is also a good thing. He's going out there, he's landing knockouts, he's pulling off all these crafty submissions. And when you talk about his submissions, I think that this is a fighter that may impress down the line with his grappling abilities, okay, with that huge frame. Time will tell, but that's a potential X factor. And I want to bring up, you take a look at the 2 knockout victories that he's had, right? The James Regina fight, you could pull that up on YouTube. I mean, he looks to be an accurate striker, although he has this herky-jerky, unorthodox type of style. Maybe he continues to have success with his striking against higher level opposition. Maybe that herky-jerky type of style translates to the highest levels of the sport. I don't know. We'll see about that. Defensively, his head does seem to be on the center line quite a bit, and I think that could be a problem when you're facing a fighter like Ferreira that will look to take your head off, okay? I think that it's very possible we see Brunno go out here and land a KO as McVey takes a big step up in competition, but I would not be surprised if McVey proves to be game and hangs in this fight and somehow pulls it off, whether it's him getting another first round finish. All right, we've seen Ferreira finished early in fights before, and that's all McVey has done. And maybe it's McVey that looks much better in the later rounds. Maybe this is a fighter that has great conditioning. Just because he hasn't left the first round as a pro doesn't mean that he is not well conditioned. He may be putting in that type of work, and you have to keep an eye on the frame difference. Okay, when you guys see these fighters facing off at the weigh-ins, I think a lot of people will be looking at this fight differently. Okay, but you have to side with Ferreira here based off the experience factor. He's coming off an impressive performance, and we just don't know too much about McVey at this point. He's been facing very low-level opposition. So you take a look at the betting line. All right, this is a little surprising to me. Right now, Ferreira is a -700. Okay, I am in disagreement with this line. All right, I think it's too risky. Ferreira is not the most trustworthy fighter. And if he goes out there looking to land bombs in the first round and he doesn't get that KO, how is he going to look later in this fight? And I just think that McVey may be a fighter that proves to be legitimate. So I am in complete disagreement with this line. I think that the value is on the dog in Jackson McVey, who is right now a +475. Okay, guys? This could be a fighter that shows up. But with me forced to give an official decision, give me Ferreira to get a first-round knockout. Carli Judice takes on Nicolle Caliari, women's flyweight action here. Judice is a very interesting up-and-comer in this division. She's still just 26 years old. Everybody remembers the very entertaining bout she had on Dana White's Contender Series against a common opponent of Caliari in Ernesta Quericate. That fight went to a split decision. Some people thought that she should have got the nod. There was a crazy amount of output that she put in that fight, and that's something that we've seen from her throughout her career. And you should expect that her to have an advantage in volume in this bout here. She did take another split decision loss against a fighter that's proving to be pretty tough in Gabriela Fernandez after that, which she then followed up with the spectacular head kick KO of Younessi Dubin. Okay, now what you have to note is I'm not really sold on Dubin as a fighter. I know that she had that crazy upset victory on DWCS, but I just don't believe that she's on the level of a Caliari. So don't necessarily expect Judice to go out there and land something spectacular like that against Caliari. I think that Caliari is going to be a little bit more of an issue. Okay, Caliari is a fighter that's trained martial arts from a very young age. She has all different types of accolades. She's been training jiu-jitsu since she was young. She has that traditional karate striking background, which her father trained in that art and had her learning from a young age, and she turned that into training in Muay Thai and all that. She has all different kinds of accolades if you've dove into her, okay? So she's not a girl that's just in there looking to land some overhand right and get lucky, okay? She's talented. She's very physically strong, where she potentially could have success in this bout is clinching up with Judice, and if she can get some takedowns. But all in all, I really like the production and the growth that we've seen from Judice, and I don't think that she's going to go out there and be able to pull off a submission like she has in the past, right? You think back to the Corinne Laframboise victory that she had on DWCS where she pulled off the armbar. I think that Judice is quickly evolving as a fighter, and she still has never been finished yet. And I just don't see it happening here. I think that this could play out to be a very close bout, but where I like siding with Judice is the fact that I think that we see more rapid growth from her as she came over to the sport of mixed martial arts at an older age. We know that she had the softball background. She's a true athlete, and I think that we see more rapid growth from her, but I like the size and length advantage. And as she creates space and keeps the fight standing, I think that the output is going to be the difference here. And her striking it's evolving, it's sharpening up fast, and that length and that striking advantage that she has should pay dividends. And I think that she wins this fight via decision. Okay, but Caliari's a tough chick. And as we go over to the betting odds, Judice is currently at -250. I'm going to say, once again, I'm not in agreement with the line here. Okay, I'm siding with the favorite to win the fight. I have to pick a winner, and I would say she wins via decision. But would I want to chalk up -250 odds on Judice here? No, I would not. I'm telling you guys, Caliari is a good fighter. She's young, and she still has time to take her game to another level. And the value's on the dog. This should be a fun one. We have a heavyweight clash between Ryan Spann and Łukasz Brzeski. Both these fighters tend to look like they're fighting on ice skates at times, right? They're tripping over their shoelaces. They're being knocked out. I will say Ryan Spann, in my opinion, is the superior fighter here, especially offensively. Okay, if we do see a knockout, it's much more likely he is the fighter that's landing that. He has also shown to have a very dangerous submission arsenal. Okay, but he is also a fighter that has major defensive holes in his game. He overextends himself on his strikes, and he'll be countered. And also, I would say that he has a lower level gas tank. Okay, so those are issues you're dealing with if you're backing him here. He's only won 1 of his last 5 bouts. And because of all that, this stands out to me as one of those bouts where the superior fighter can actually very easily be upset. All right. And you note, Spann made the move up to the heavyweight division in that last bout where he was finished in the second round against Waldo Cortez Acosta. He had some early success. He showed his toughness. He was looking to land his own KO. Okay. But he ended up getting knocked out. How is he going to look once again up in the heavyweight division here? He just with that slow movement, he has a huge frame, so he kind of fills into the heavyweight division in that sense. But with the way he moves, it's slow and lethargic. And I do believe that Brzeski could potentially catch him with something. Okay, I think that it's possible that we see Brzeski get a KO in this fight. Okay, but I'll circle right back to what I said. At the end of the day, Spann has a more dangerous arsenal. It's more likely that he lands a KO. And I think it's also very likely that we see Brzeski submitted for the first time. Spann is nasty with his overall submission threat, and maybe we see a club and sub, something like that. But I do expect this fight to end early, and one of these fighters is going to get their hand raised. Good for them. And I'm hoping that it's Spann. I think that Spann, he's just 33 years old. And if you think about it like this, he has a world of professional experience with 33 professional bouts. He's been around for a long time. If he wants to hang in the heavyweight division, he's still a young fighter. So if he could slow things down and just get his feet under him and sharpen up things defensively, I wouldn't be shocked if he starts to put some W's together, but he has to get his head right. And if he takes an L here, I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets cut from the UFC. Matter of fact, I could see whoever loses this fight being cut by the UFC. Sounds kind of weird to say in the sense for Spann, but take a look at his recent production. It's been pretty bad. But when things are going good, they do go pretty good, right? He had a knockout over Dominic Reyes. He also submitted Ian Cutelaba. There have been some of those kind of highs throughout his career over the last couple of years, but not so many, really, when you look at his resume. So, I mean, we pull up the betting odds for this fight. Ryan Spann is currently a -235. He opened up as a -260, so we see that line dipping. That makes sense to me. Okay, it really does. I think that Spann should probably be more like a -190, -180 to a -190 favorite here. I think that there is a solid risk if you're backing him, and I wouldn't want to be chalking up those types of odds. So once again, you guys have me over here barking about how there's value on the dog. This may be one of those cards. Stick with me because we have a lot more action to talk about, but this could be one of those cards. If you just were targeting a lot of dogs throughout the entire card, you could profit. We'll see if that's the case, though. A lot more to talk about. At the end of the day, give me Ryan Spann to land a knockout. I'm going to say that he actually gets that clean KO before he even has to follow Brzeski down to the mat and whip some type of choke together there. I think he gets a clean KO in the first round. One of the hottest prospects in all of mixed martial arts steps back into the cage. Ateba Gautier will be taking on Robert Valentin. Now, if you didn't catch Gautier's last fight against Jose Medina, go run the tape back. In his UFC debut, goes out there, lands a nasty knee, and finishes a fighter in Medina that was proven to be extremely durable and tough. All right. And I thought that fight really showed a lot in the sense that Gautier didn't rush anything. He was very patient. And what a lot of people don't understand or realize about him is that he is a lot more complete as a striker than people think. Okay. He has solid footwork. He has a lot more threats than just using his hands. As we saw him land that big hook on Dana White's Contender Series, this is a very dangerous striker. And the fact that he's 23 years old, the fact that he's this young, it's a very scary thought to imagine what he's going to look like when he's 28, 29. I mean, this legitimately is a potential future champion. There's a lot of Francis Ngannou vibes that I get when I'm watching him in there. Now, he still has a lot more to prove, and he has to work on his ground game and show us more there. But this is a fighter that brings in the X factor. Also, you must note Gautier has a freakish 81-inch wingspan. That's an error there, as you see it say 76. Okay, he has an 81-inch wingspan. So, yes, he will have a massive reach advantage, as he will essentially when he's matched up against anybody in this division. When you're talking Robert Valentin, this is a fighter that has shown to be dangerous with his striking at times too, right? You think of him on The Ultimate Fighter. He had that nasty KO over Yanis Bakar. But interestingly enough, when he's finishing fights, it's actually typically with his submission skill set. And that's something to keep an eye on, because I do expect he will be put in a position where he's not going to want to trade. He's not going to want to strike it out. And he's going to look to somehow try to implement some grappling tactics into this fight. It'll be like the opposite of his last bout against Torres Finney, where he was constantly looking to create space and get away, and he wasn't able to. And somehow that fight was a split decision. They weren't giving Finney any credit for the work he was doing, which I know he wasn't landing damage and whatnot, but still, he pretty much dominated that fight. We weren't able to see Valentin create any space. And then also, you must note the fight before that against Ryan Loder, which was for the Ultimate Fighter winner there. He really didn't look good, man. He broke down. He got finished by Loder. Loder is a tough American wrestler, but he didn't look that good in his last bout. And, it's really hard to put your finger on exactly who Valentin is at the moment. But one thing that I do feel pretty confident in saying is that he's going to be a step behind this young phenom, Gautier. I don't see him getting this fight to the ground. I think that Gautier is going to show rapid and quick improvement with his takedown defense and grappling abilities. Not that they've looked that bad when you're talking his takedown defense already. I just don't see him getting taken down. And I think that he's going to land damage. And you're going to see him, even if he doesn't land a KO, you're going to see him kind of pick Valentin apart, even at range, just from a point type of style. But at the end of the day, what are we going to see? You guys know what we're going to see. We're going to see a knockout. I think we see a highlight reel KO. It wouldn't be the first time Valentin has been knocked out. He's been knocked out twice via strikes, and I think that we're going to see that once again. We'll take a look at the current odds. Ateba opened up as a -350. He is currently a -415. I would not be surprised if we see this line get steamed. I could see Ateba closing in around a -650 to a -700 favorite. I really could see it. I think the hype on him is legit. And where the line is right now, even as him being as high of a favorite as he is, I think that it's warranted. I feel pretty damn confident he gets the job done here. I don't think that he's going to get countered with a big strike and be knocked out in his own right. And I don't think that Valentin's going to have that success getting this fight down to the mat. We got a massive 12-year age discrepancy in this matchup between the youngster Francisco Prado and Nikolay Veretennikov. When this fight was announced, it had me scratching my head for sure, because I had thought that we had seen the last from Veretennikov, as he is now 0-3 under the UFC banner, if you want to include the Dana White's Contender Series bout. All right, he's coming off a loss to Austin Vanderford, where he was finished up in the second round. It wasn't just for the fact that he had been taking these L's, right? It was for the fact that he ran up and shoved Vanderford after taking that recent loss. Typically, that's a no-go, right? If you do something like that, Dana White will cut ties from you. I mean, he was even as stubborn when it came to Paul Daly, that after all the success that Daly had, going out there getting knockout after knockout over in Strikeforce and Bellator, he never would even peek at him. All right, and now I know Daly threw an actual punch on Josh Koscheck after the fight, but still, I mean, he ran up and shoved Vanderford. Maybe he was able to plead his case to Dana. Maybe there was a more valid reason than what seemed to us, because there didn't really seem to be anything going on. There was no purpose for that. But nevertheless, here he is. And another interesting fact is that they match him up with this young fighter, Prado, who has only won one of his last 4 fights, right? He shows to have talent, but without a doubt, he hasn't been able to put it together enough to be a formidable UFC opponent at this current time. At least he hasn't proven that. There's definitely potential there, though. I will say that. You mix in the fact that he's been grinding over the American Top Team in Coconut Creek. We know he has big power. He can finish you. He also has a questionable frame for this division. He had recently made the move up to the welterweight division after spending a lot of time down in the lightweight division. All right, so that's another interesting factor that the UFC gives Veretennikov another fight in the UFC, and a winnable fight at that. So I thought that was interesting. But as I said, Prado, just 23. There's some real potential here. And what I like about this matchup for Prado is that even though Veretennikov has his last name ending in OV, right? He's not really a grappler. Okay. He is more of a striking first fighter. And we've actually seen him struggle with his grappling at times. I already mentioned the Vanderford fight, even though Vanderford's a high level wrestler. You think back to the Michael Morales bout in DWCS, he was taken down quite a bit. Veretennikov is actually more of a striking based fighter. I think that we could see these two men clash, and I'm interested to see how that takes place. I think that if we do see a knockout, I would lean a little bit more towards Prado's way. I think that this could be a showcase bout for him to land some big strikes on the more stiff and robotic Veretennikov as he plots forward. And you take a look at the volume numbers, it would lean towards Prado's way. And I think that it's time for Prado to put it together here and get his hand raised. I will lean towards Prado getting the job done, but you also take a look at how many strikes he's absorbing. Okay, defensively, he has shown to have some holes. We have seen him touched up quite a bit. You think back to that last bout against Jake Matthews. It wasn't Matthews changing levels and using grappling to get the job done. It was strictly him using his striking. Okay, not one takedown was attempted against Prado, who Prado was the fighter that had the question marks surrounding that part of his game. And it was Prado that was shooting on Matthews. He was just one of 6 there, did have 2 minutes and 16 seconds of control time. But again, it was Matthews that was out ahead with the striking. So a lot of interesting factors going on here. I say we see Prado take that next step in his game. I think that he gets another victory in the octagon. He just has that one against Azatar, who's a lower level fighter. He'll get another victory over a lower level UFC fighter. A UFC fighter, if that. Not really sure if that's what Veretennikov is. Yes, I know some of you guys will look at the Danny Barlow bout that Veretennikov had and say, okay, he was pretty formidable there. I just think that he'll be a little bit slower, and he won't be able to have enough success with his takedown game using wrestling tactics there. And I think that the speed of Prado, the power that Prado possesses, could pay dividends. Prado's still never been finished. We've seen Veretennikov finish twice via strikes. Also, he was subbed once before. And give me the youngster here, man. I hope he figures it out. That this could be a fun fighter to watch throughout the years if he can figure things out. He opened up as a -170, went up to a -177, and now the line has continuously dipped. He's a -145. Now that makes sense to me. The line movement makes a lot of sense to me. I don't have an overwhelming amount of confidence in Prado here, especially not enough to cough up a -177, -170 line on him. I still I would have him capped more like as a -130, -135, a very minimal favorite. So, but I don't want to frustrate any of you guys too much there. We'll say the line's pretty accurate. I have a slight lean towards Prado's way. And if you really wanted to have action on him, I'm not completely against it as he's a -145. I'm going to say Prado gets a KO here. Okay, not an extreme amount of confidence. I actually could see him winning via decision as well, but I'm going to say he gets a knockout. I know I'm kind of calling my shots with the KOs. I'm hoping this will be an exciting card where we start to really see things playing out in an entertaining fashion. Now this one, similarly to when we talked about Ryan Spann versus Łukasz Brzeski, is one of those ones where it's like, okay, you got a lower level fighter taking part in it, in Prachnio's case, but he does some things well at times. He's kind of fun to watch because he'll either land a big strike or he'll go out on the shield. And in fact, I would say Prachnio has shown more than even Brzeski has. And then you have a fighter in Jimmy Crute who has shown to be a more well-rounded fighter. Definitely has a grappling edge here. And some may look at this fight and just dismiss it. I wouldn't. I think that this is going to be a fight that's entertaining, right? When you're tuned into the TV, this will be a fight that's entertaining. I'll circle back to what I said here. Jimmy Crute should have a solid grappling advantage here. Okay, he's one of the more polished BJJ players in this division. We've known that he struggles defensively with his striking, and that could be a major issue here because you take a look, Prachnio has 9 KOs out of his 17 victories, and we've seen him land unorthodox and wild type of strikes. Okay, so if Crute comes in with that same old head on the center line, stiff as a board type striking, yes, it's very likely that we can see him knocked out. I'm going to tell you guys that right now. If we see a knockout in this fight, it's Prachnio getting the KO. All right, if we see a submission or just a domination with the grappling, it's going to come from Crute's side. I know that Crute has some kickboxing abilities, and Prachnio will make mistakes there as well. So you could say, yeah, it's possible. But it just, if you want to simplify things, that's kind of what you have going on there. I mean, even in Jimmy Crute's last fight, where he went to a draw against Rodolfo Bellato, took a world of damage in that fight. He was able to pull off that 10-8 round in the first due to Bellato making some mistakes and going down to the mat there by getting a little overzealous. But you saw once Bellato settled in, I mean, he was the superior striker, and he had plenty of opportunities to get his own knockout, even though he wasn't able to do that. But I mean, that was just another example of Crute showing to be very vulnerable on the feet. We've seen him KO'd quite a bit, right? You think about the KO loss to Jamal Hale, to Anthony Smith. He was submitted by Alonzo Menafield, right? Got caught in the guillotine there, took damage in that fight. Was submitted by Misha Serkinov. I mean, that was back in the day when he had a lot of early hype. So there's been consistent mistakes made by Crute throughout his career. And, he was a fighter that was very hyped up back in the day as he fought on Dana White's Contender Series at a young age and had that jiu-jitsu background and looked to move pretty well as far as his footwork went, but he just does not keep his head off the center line. He doesn't have solid head movement. I don't think that he'll ever figure it out, quite honestly. I really don't. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say that he's able to avoid having that big strike landed on him by Prachnio, and he'll get this fight down to the mat and he'll pull off a sub on Prachnio. I'm calling another finish. I mean, when you take a look at Prachnio in his last fight against Bukauskas, he landed a lot of damage on Bukauskas, showing how dangerous he is with his striking, but made constant mistakes. And in the third round, he broke down. He got caught in an arm triangle choke. We saw Vitor Petrino catch him in an arm triangle choke. I'm going to say that Jimmy Crute catches him in an arm triangle choke. I'm going to say that that's how this fight goes down. But do not be surprised if Prachnio lands a KO early on in this fight. If Crute struggles to get this fight down to the mat, he will be outstruck. All right, Prachnio is very flexible. He has good dexterity. He could throw the kicks up there. I could see him whipping a head kick, just having that weird type of striking style where he's coming from awkward angles and he capitalizes with the big hook on Crute. I mean, it could go down a variety of ways. This is a fun fight, but you have to pick Jimmy Crute to win the fight straight up. You have to. Okay, I'm going to say there's value on the underdog here, but I can't sit here and pick Prachnio. If I want to give you my most likely outcome of this fight is that Jimmy Crute will have success getting this fight down to the mat eventually and will likely find that submission. I'm going to say he gets that arm triangle choke, had an arm triangle choke. We got ranked bantamweight action set to take place between Kyler Phillips and Vinicius Lockdog de Oliveira. Look at the shape of Vinicius as we near fight night. I mean, he looks absolutely primed to go, right? You mix the fact that he's just 29 years old. He already has 25 professional fights. Right? I mentioned the fact that he is newer to the UFC. He's been making some recent noise since working his way into the octagon from Dana White's Contender Series. Okay, but he already had a good amount of experience fighting over in UAE Warriors and all that before getting these recent opportunities. And he has been nothing but impressive since getting these opportunities. Okay, you take into consideration, first off, that his last 2 victories come against seasoned and respectable fighters like Ricky Simon and Said Nurmagomedov, right? Ricky has got things rolling once again. Nurmagomedov, we know he's dangerous. Then you take into account the flying knee knockout that he landed on Bernardo Sapai, who is a young fighter, but a very talented and refined young fighter. Okay, and he has a lot of potential. We saw him just get a big victory. So, I mean, that flying knee that he landed was so damn impressive. And then before that, the Dana White's Contender Series knockout that he landed in the first round. I mean, okay, this is a fighter that has serious potential. And the thing that stands out to me in this matchup is the fact that I think that he has more dog in him than a Kyler Phillips, right? Kyler Phillips is very tricky, very talented. He has nasty jiu-jitsu. He's dynamic with his striking, and there is potential that he can land a KO here. In fact, when you take a look at the 3 losses that Vinicius has taken, all of them come by way of KO. One of them was a doctor stoppage, but the other 2, okay, he was caught being overly aggressive. Okay, so Kyler has potential to counter him in that type of fashion. But what Kyler doesn't like is when you're pressuring him and making it an ugly fight. We saw that in his last bout against Rob Font, where he was outstruck on significant strikes, 61-38. Rob Font was constantly looking to push the pressure in his face. Phillips had some success getting takedowns. He was 4 or 5 there with 4 minutes and 42 seconds of control time, and it still wasn't enough as he was down clearly in 2 rounds. And I think that we're going to see Vinicius pressuring him, looking to make this an ugly fight. You also circle back to the Julian Paiva fight. Kyler Phillips was up early. All right, he was landing a lot of damage, but he let Paiva creep back into that bout. Okay, and I just think that there's a lot of similarities going on in those 2 losses to potentially what Vinicius could bring to the table here and threaten Kyler. Okay, that's what stands out to me. I believe that if Kyler Phillips doesn't land a nasty counter KO early in this fight, I would say in the first half of this fight, within the first 1.5 rounds, I think that things can get a little ugly for him. I expect to see the best version of Vinicius. You take a look at their frames. You see that it's Kyler Phillips with the 3-inch reach advantage. You'll see Vinicius is an inch taller, but Vinicius really has a solid frame for this weight class. Okay, he's jacked up. He's just very lean and muscular, and I think that he'll be a little bit more physically imposing and in clinch positions. And if we see a fighter get a takedown, I think that Vinicius probably falls on top of Kyler somehow, and we'll see if Kyler can try to work some jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's not that Kyler's bad there, and Kyler could potentially work something. He can get on top, but I think that Vinicius will just have more energy and more strength. And even if you see Vinicius somehow taken down, you see him just having more dog in him, working his way back up to his feet, maybe then him sinking in a single leg or something like that, ripping Kyler down late. I think that this fight can get ugly, and I think that in an ugly type of fight, Vinicius will prevail here, okay? And it's not that he's not refined technically as well, and he does a lot of things well with his striking. You could see him blasting calf kicks, and I'll just simply say this. You'll see Kyler Phillips, the fighter, lighter on his feet with that kind of karate stance and looking to land tricky type of strikes, whereas you're going to see Vinicius kind of plotting forward with those the heavy Muay Thai skills coming from awkward angles, slipping his head, throwing these heavy hooks, and I just see that prevailing here, okay? There's a lot of momentum behind Vinicius, and I'm backing him here, okay? But if Kyler's going to have success, he's going to have to land a heavy counter and shake things up, or he's going to have to prove to us that he's willing to dig a little bit deeper late in fights, and he's able to get that second win later in his fights, which he's really not proven to be able to do. All right, so give me Vinicius de Oliveira to get the job done. I'm going to say he wins a decision, just digging a little bit deeper and kind of taking over this fight. Maybe Kyler can sneak off a round, but I have de Oliveira winning at least 2 rounds for sure. If anything, he hits the clean sweep and wins every round, 30-27. I'm going to say he wins a decision. He opened up as a -210, and he is currently a -175, so the line is dipping down. I think that the value is on Vinicius, even where this line's at. I like him to get the job done. This may be a line that you keep an eye on. Hopefully it continues to drop. Maybe you can catch him around a -155, -150 or something like that. That'd be great. I get it. People understand that Kyler's talented, but you guys saw the shape that Vinicius is coming into this fight in, and he's pumped up. He's ready to go. And meanwhile, Kyler, he's coming off a loss, okay, against Font, and maybe he's kind of second guessing himself. I think both of these fighters are mentally at different points, and that could play a big factor in this fight. In the welterweight division, Islam Dulatov looks to make his UFC debut against Adam Fugitt. Dulatov comes in off a phenomenal knockout victory on DWCS. He hit Antunes with that elbow. But make no mistake, I mean, as soon as the bell rung, Dulatov was putting on an absolute masterclass with his hands, showcasing the boxing skills that he has. The one thing I liked is he hurt Antunes early on in that fight. And you saw when he had him hurt, he was very calm and composed. He was throwing his strikes very, very tight and crisp. He wasn't getting wild and putting himself out there and putting himself in a vulnerable position. So he showed to be pretty mature for a young fighter, as he's just 26 years old. He has, striking experience besides just the mixed martial arts experience that he's starting to add up. And also, when you take a look at his 11 victories, about half of them have come by way of sub, which is a good sign. It's not like he's just going out there and showing to be a one-trick pony, just using his striking. There are some signs that his grappling is decent. Now, we need to see a lot more of it. We need to see it tested against higher level competition. And Adam Fugitt is a step up in competition, right? This is a fighter that has been consistently overlooked, and he has came through at times as a big underdog, all right? And he has a well-rounded skill set. He's an awkward fighter. Even when you look at the Michael Morales bout, right? You watch that first round. I mean, he snuck off a tricky inside takedown trip where he got on top of Michael Morales. Morales has solid wrestling abilities. That's not easy to do. I know Morales worked back up to his feet and eventually broke him down and finished him in the beginning of the third round. But Fugitt, he could throw some tricks at you. If you're not prepared for them, you could be in a bad position. So he's going to test Dulatov. This is a fighter that's consistently been overlooked, and he's came through at times. Even dating back to the regional scene against Solomon Renfro, he pulled off the first round KO. Renfro, you guys know the deal with him, was once looked to be a big prospect in the game. He came in and knocked out Kinoshita in the first round, a fighter that was once pretty hyped up. Just snuck off a close victory over Josh Quinlan. That was an arguable victory, but he was game. He was in there. And when you take a look at his losses, this is a very interesting fact. When you take a look at his losses, they're against high-level competition. So it's hard to kind of to judge him based off of his L's. You kind of got to look at more of his wins, kind of gauge where he's at. Right? He was submitted by Mike Malott, was knocked out against Mike Morales. He was finished against Kalen Hill in the regional scene. You can kind of put him under the fire a little bit more so for that. Kalen Hill, though, was a once respected regional fighter. We saw him on DWCS and all that, and he took an L early on in his career against Austin Vanderford. These losses aren't that glaring, okay? And he's going to come in here with, in my opinion, a slight experience advantage, right? He fights out of the southpaw stance. He has a big frame as well. But quite simply, if Adam Fugitt's going to get the job done here, I think that he's going to have to catch Dulatov with a wild counter. Maybe Dulatov hurts him and gets a little overzealous. Maybe Fugitt can catch him there. Or maybe he sets something up early on using his kicking game. Maybe he sets something up and lands something big, but I just don't see it. And then from there, again, we could talk about the grappling. Maybe if he gets Dulatov to the later rounds and you see Dulatov have holes in his grappling game, but I don't think we're going to see that either. I think that Dulatov is going to be a finely tuned machine for a 26-year-old fighter with just 12 professional fights. I think that this dude's going to be a little bit different in there. And I think the way this thing's going to play out is a little differently than some of Fugitt's recent losses where they were more towards the second half of the fight. I'm going to say as he brings that early pressure towards Dulatov's way, that he gets countered with a big strike and he gets finished earlier in this fight. I'm calling another early finish, boys. Obviously, I'm probably not going to be right about all of them, but I'm banking on us seeing a lot of finishes throughout this card. I think that this could easily be a finish spot. Fugitt has been finished in the majority of his losses, right? Finished in 3 of his 4 losses, besides just that one decision L to Vanderford. And I think that Dulatov, who is an absolute fight finisher, he has finished every single one of his 11 victories. Even with the slight step up in competition, Dulatov gets another finish here and gets his hand raised in his UFC debut. And Dulatov, I think he's like a male model. There's some like Alan Jouban vibes kind of going on, but I think he has much more potential than Jouban ever had. Not to say Jouban was a bad fighter, but I think Dulatov has a lot more potential. We'll see how far he could push it. And he is currently a -575. He's a steep favorite. I mean, what do you want me to say here? I'll say, okay, the line's accurate. He should be a big favorite like this. Be cautious if it's shooting up to the sky there. I mean, what are you going to do with that type of line? And just understand that Fugitt has been counted out before, and he's an unorthodox, decently well-rounded fighter, and you never know if he shows up and makes this an ugly fight. So I just would caution you guys to be targeting this huge line here. I think this is when you probably sit back, or this could potentially be a fight that we're talking about in the prop edition video. Maybe we were targeting an under. Like I said, I expect this fight to end early, or a KO on Dulatov. Now, ranked middleweight action between two recognizable names in this division who have been going through some recent adversity, right? Both these fighters come in on 2-fight losing skids. It's interesting, too, when you take a look at their ages, right? They've been around the block, but if you look at how old they are, signs would point to them still progressing as fighters and getting better. I'm not exactly sure if that's the case. I mean, you take a look at the amount of pro fights they've had and the way they've been performing as of recently. They've taken some damage. I don't know if they're getting better. They may have already hit their peaks. I don't know. I think that's a good argument. I don't know. Marvin Vettori, he's coming off a performance where he seemed to be mentally checked out against Roman Dolidze, right? In the rematch, he had just recently snuck off a victory against Dolidze. A lot of people thought that he should have taken an L in that first fight. In the rematch, which was a 5-round fight, Vettori did not show up at all. Okay, he was coasting through that fight, which you can kind of look at that in two different aspects, right? It's not like he was completely outclassed. He was a step behind, but if he actually would have met Dolidze a little bit more so, I think that the fight could have played out a little bit more like the first one, where I actually did believe that he won, where he slightly won it. Okay, but he wasn't mentally there, and that's a problem too, because if you're not willing to go to war, if you're not willing to march forward and land significant strikes when they're needed, that's a problem. On the other hand, Brendan Allen is a fighter that will press forward, okay? When he knows he's down in the judges' scorecards, this is the type of fighter that's going to look to scratch and crawl to do anything that he could do to try to get his hand raised. But at times, he's a little bit outmatched. I guess I would say technically. I've never really been the biggest fan of his striking. I think that he's a little bit defensively flawed. He's got a big old melon. You see him countered a little bit here and there. He's kind of slow and clunky with his striking, even though he's been working for years with Henry Hooft. And offensively, he's kind of refined. He's a little slow. And we saw that even dating back to when he fought on Dana White's Contender Series way back in the day against Aaron Jeffrey. He was hurt early on in that fight. He eventually pulled off the sub, but he was hurt. I think he was even dropped in the beginning of that fight, and then he eventually got things going. He hit the rear naked choke. We do know that his grappling game is high level. We saw him go out there, submit Holland early on. I mean, he's had some big time performances with his grappling. Submitted Andre Muniz, Christoph Jocko. Now, if you look at his more recent victories, Paul Craig, Bruno Silva, I mentioned Muniz. I mean, I have some question marks about all these fighters. The Chris Curtis fight was a war. He did prevail, but he took a lot of damage. Once again, talking about the striking damage that he takes. And then in his last two fights, he was outmatched against these up-and-coming problems in the division like Nasruddin Imavov and Hernandez. And if Marvin Vettori comes into this fight motivated and looking to get a W, if he's hungry for the W like he should be coming off the performance that he just had, I think that Vettori could be a problem for him. Vettori's not easy to be taken down. Okay, it's not like you can go out there, just ragdoll him and submit him. Vettori is pretty polished up with his grappling. You take a look at the numbers. Vettori has never been subbed. Okay, he's never been finished at that. And as Vettori uses his technical skills to stuff takedowns, I think that Vettori can get the better of the striking. I do. I think that as they're throwing volume, if Vettori just steps on the gas a little bit more so, actually we could say a good amount more so than his last fight, okay, I think that he gets the better of the striking exchanges. You see he's landing more typically, although he does absorb more than Allen. But I'm going to say Vettori is a slightly better striker with better footwork, and he's more durable. Don't overlook how durable he is. He's still never been finished. We've seen him eat some serious damage. He walks through it. He'll be hanging in there. If we see either fighter get landed on too heavily, I think that it would be Allen that breaks down. And it's not easy to take Vettori down. All right. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a vintage performance by Vettori. And that doesn't mean he's going to go out there and just have a flashy KO. Right. That's not really what he's known for. When you take a look at his more respectable victories, right, it's him using his technical abilities, fighting out of the southpaw stance, blasting body kicks, kind of outboxing you. He has pretty sharp boxing. He'll pump the jab, and he'll go out there and he'll decision you, like he did against Dolidze in the first fight, like he did against Costa, like he did against Kevin Holland, Jack Hermanson, Andrew Sanchez back in the day, Cesar Ferreira. Even in that first fight against Israel Adesanya, that fight was pretty competitive. And that was against an Adesanya that was one of the more dangerous strikers the game has ever seen, right? You guys know the deal with Adesanya, and you got to give him a little bit of credit for the way that he fought against Adesanya that first time around. Obviously, in the rematch, he was much more, I guess you would say, hesitant and more on the back foot. But if Vettori shows up here, I think that this is a fight that is very winnable for him, okay? And I'm going to bank on him being hungry enough to go out there and do that. And take a look at where the line is for this fight, okay? We're barking, boys. We got a dog pick here. Marvin Vettori is currently at plus 210. I think without a doubt the value is on him. I think that this fight is very close. People are kind of counting Vettori out based off that last fight. Yeah, I mean, I could be eating my words here. If he shows up and looks like he did in that last bout where he's just coasting, it could be a problem. And you could see Allen using his aggression and his eagerness to win pay dividends. But I'm going to say that Vettori shows up and does what he needs to do here. He wins the decision. Hey guys, hope all is well. Just a quick reminder, if you guys could please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That is what enables me to take this thing to another level, man. It all starts with you guys. I appreciate you guys greatly. If you could hit that subscribe button and smash that like button before you get out of here. 13 years is the age discrepancy in this matchup here between Michael Johnson and Daniel Zellhuber. We talked about earlier on the card where there was a big gap. I mean, I think this one takes the cake. Michael Johnson is now 39 years old, and he's actually been looking pretty decent, all things taken into consideration, because he's been matched up against some lower level fighters in Atman Azatar and Darius Flowers. Before those two victories, he was brutally KO'd. And that loss was very alarming because taking into consideration him getting up there in age, and it wasn't the first time that he was put out in devastating fashion. You think back to the Josh Emmett KO loss. That was a brutal one. And Michael Johnson is a fighter that's always been known as having those up and down performances. And I'll also throw into the mix, he's a fighter that doesn't really get too much of a benefit from the judges. And a lot of his fights that played out closely, like the Stevie Ray fight, he actually won that fight. It wasn't even that close of a fight. He got robbed there. You think about the Jamie Malarkey fight. That was another fight he probably should have got the nod in. Okay, so you got that going on. But there are fights where he showed up and looked phenomenal. The Dustin Poirier knockout. I mean, we're going to be talking about DP in a little bit, but I mean, what a knockout that was. Without a doubt, I would say that's the highlight of his career, to go out there and have done what he did against a fighter at the level of Poirier, right? I mean, a Hall of Famer, the way he went out there and starched him. That is Michael Johnson hitting on all cylinders, right? He has that hand speed. I remember watching MJ way back to when he fought on The Ultimate Fighter. He came up short in the finale to win the show against Jonathan Brookings, a fighter that was really never able to put it together. But MJ did, man. He did put it together. You could poke fun at him. He's a fighter that has a victory over Tony Ferguson, right? A lot of wins and losses, but he's fought respectable fighters. He's had highlight KOs. He's been in there with the best of them, like Khabib. I would argue to you that when Khabib went out there and did what he did against MJ, that's when he really was put on the map to the masses as a whole, right? You started to see Snoop Dogg tweeting about that and whatever, and that's when Khabib was talking to Dana, I think, when he was smashing him. But the ups and downs have occurred, and one thing still remains the same. I would say that Michael Johnson's a dangerous fighter, even at 39 years old. If Daniel goes in there and thinks this is going to be a cakewalk, if he thinks he's just going to rely on his durability to just walk through damage and it's going to be an easy fight, he could be mistaken, okay? Yes, he's never been finished thus far. He took a lot of damage against Esteban Ribovics in a fight that had me on the edge of my seat. If you guys remember, that was that UFC Sphere card. I had an official play locked in that fight, going the distance with the durability between those two fighters, and Ribovics was very close to getting the finish. I thought that Daniel still should have won that fight. I think I had him up on rounds 1 and 2. But I mean, the heart that he showed in there, the durability, it's great. He's very dangerous offensively. He's very long-limbed, and cutting to the chase here, I think that it's much more likely that we see Daniel land a knockout strike in this fight. All right, we've seen Johnson hurt and finished before. We still haven't seen Daniel finished via strikes, and I'm not worried about any type of submission skills that Johnson's gonna threaten with here, even though Zellhuber has been pretty good looking there as well. So in a fight that should be a kickboxing match, you should see these two fighters going at it. As long as Daniel doesn't make a glaring mistake and get hit with that early counter strike, he should be okay here. He should be okay. All right. I'll also mention, right, the fight that Daniel had on Dana White's Contender Series against, I believe it was against Almeida, right? Forget the first name. Swinging that off the top of my head, but the Muay Thai Brazilian striker there. That was a fight where he took a lot of damage early on, but eventually once he started to get things going, he took over that fight. But that wasn't Lucas Almeida. That was another fight where he took early damage, showing to have defensive flaws, which he does, right? He's absorbing 6.02 strikes per minute. Okay, he makes up for that with all the damage that he lands at 6.26. All right, I just don't completely overlook Johnson, but you got to side with Zellhuber, and I say he gets the KO. I'm picking another knockout victory here. I just think that this is going to be a fight that has a high pace to it, and Johnson has taken so much damage throughout the years, and he's 39 years old. I think we see something similar to what we just saw when Johnson took his last L, and we'll see him sleeping with the fishes there. So give me Daniel Zellhuber to win this fight via strikes. But at minus 460, do I see a ton of value? No, I do not. I have this fight capped more as Zellhuber being like a minus 350 where the line opened up. So I'm not crazy about the action coming in on him. And don't forget, he took a lot of damage in that last fight. So we'll see where he's at mentally. Patricio Pitbull is going to give this thing another go. The whole fighting in the octagon thing. He'll be taking on the number 12th ranked featherweight fighter Dan Ige, who comes into this fight with some real momentum behind him. I was able to watch both these fighters fight live. If you guys follow me on IG at MMA Fortune Teller, you guys saw me sitting right behind the Trumpster, and you guys know I was there live in Miami for the event, and both of these fighters had polar opposite performances. All right, Patricio Pitbull, he's never been the most aggressive fighter. We know that he likes to counter-strike, but his performance was horrendous against Yair Rodriguez. You take a look at the numbers. He was outstruck. Total strikes 97-23. He had basically zero success in the fight. I mean, it was crazy. You could say maybe he had some octagon jitters. It was a horrendous performance, and he was coming in off that Jeremy Kennedy KO victory. He did go through some adversity even in the last couple fights before that, but make no mistake, I still have Patricio Pitbull as a very high-level fighter. He's very well-rounded. You do have to understand, though, he's now 38 years old. I mean, we're getting the tail-end version of himself, okay? I mean, I think that's a lot more of what's going on with his more recent performances, okay? When he was in his prime, I've been on record stating that he was probably the greatest Bellator fighter that we've ever seen. And he's a very dangerous man, but we're not getting the prime version of himself. And that's a key factor in this fight because Dan Ige at 33 years old, I would say we are getting the prime Dan Ige right now. Okay, he's coming in with a lot of confidence. He went out there, he finished up Sean Woodson. It was an arguable stoppage. In fact, it was a bad stoppage, but you still got to give him credit because he was starting to pick up the momentum in that fight, pick up the pace, and he was landing some big strikes. If you actually took a look at the judges' scorecards, they had Ige up regardless. Some of those scorecards were questionable. It depends what you were rating, right? The volume of Woodson or the more impactful strikes of Ige. No matter how you spin it, though, man, Ige is coming in hot. You take a look at what he's been doing even before that victory. He had a closely contested bout against Lerone Murphy. He had a closely contested bout against Diego Lopez, which was a fight that he took on extreme short notice. I mean, he's as game as it comes. You got to mention the Andre Fili KO before that. He has serious power in his hands. He has grappling abilities. You take a look at the difference in frame of these two fighters, okay? Dan Ige is going to have a large reach advantage, a long reach advantage. He's the taller fighter. He's the bigger fighter here. He's younger. He has a lot more things going for himself, and he's been very durable throughout his career. He's never been finished. Okay, all 9 of his losses come by way of decision, and I just don't think that Pitbull is going to be able to hit him with that counter strike to shake things up. And I think that you can't really have a lot of faith that Pitbull comes in looking much differently than he did in his last fight. I think that if he had octagon jitters, I think he's going to have them again. He'll have more pressure on his shoulders this time than he even did last time. Because, I mean, what's worse than doing what he did in that last fight? Doing it twice in a row, right? I would say that much. So, and this is a big event. This is another pay-per-view event. So, taking place in the NO New Orleans, I mean, I got to go with Dan Ige here. At the end of the day, I got to go with Dan Ige. I don't want to completely count out Patricio Pitbull because he is a hell of a fighter. And if he's able to run the clock back somehow, maybe with extreme motivation and pressure on his shoulders, maybe he rises to the occasion. Don't completely count him out. But in my opinion, you got to go with Dan Ige here. Okay, I have turned my back on Patricio, 38 years old and all that. You gotta turn the page on him here. And Dan Ige opened up as a -30, and he is currently a -155 favorite. So the line is pretty close. I think that line has a lot to do with people giving the benefit of the doubt to Pitbull that he is going to look more how he's looked in the past, or he can get things going and land some big strikes in this matchup. But I'm not having a lot of faith in him doing that. So give me Dan Ige to win this fight via decision. I wouldn't be surprised if Ige can mix things up, change levels, and just be the better fighter across the board with his activity, pressure, and grappling and size playing into factor. Let's jump up to the main card where we have the number 14th ranked welterweight fighter, Big Mouth Kevin Holland, living up to his name as one of the more active fighters the game has ever seen. He was just in there against Vicente Luque. Now he takes on Daniel Rodriguez, who some may argue is looking to be the best version of himself at 38 years old. Some of you guys know I kind of get some insight into D-Rod as one of my friends corners him, Sasha Palatnikov, and they've been getting in some serious work. But again, his game starts and begins with his striking. All right, if he's able to keep the fight standing, that's where he'll always be live. Now, one thing D-Rod has going for himself here is that we've seen at times from Holland, when he has a grappling advantage, he'll inadvisedly still fight you on the feet. He'll still strike it out with you. And I could easily see him doing that here. I could see him wanting to go out there and perform for the fans, and where he may be able to just try to get this fight down to the mat or implement some jiu-jitsu skills to get a finish. He may just strike it out with D-Rod. And if you do that, don't completely overlook D-Rod, man. He's a nasty striker. You see the volume that he puts out, okay? But even with that being said, I'll cut to the chase here. I still think that Holland is going to get the better of the striking exchanges. I mean, he has a huge reach advantage. He'll have about a 7-inch reach advantage. His striking's getting better and better. You know, when Holland's hitting on all cylinders, he's landing at the very end of his reach. And I could see something like that happening in this fight. I could see him hurting D-Rod. D-Rod's very tough, though. I'm going to say that D-Rod pushes through any of that adversity, but I think that Holland should out-volume him and should win a unanimous decision here. If Holland goes out there and looks to fight a real cerebral and intelligent fight, I could potentially see him finding a finish if he's changing levels, changing things up, mixing in some of his jiu-jitsu skills with his striking, keeping D-Rod guessing and not knowing what's coming at him. I think he could potentially set up a finish. But as they coast in a kickboxing type of fight, I think that D-Rod will be able to see what's coming enough to make it to the final bell. And there's an if there too. No, Holland will be live to find a finish in this fight. And also, you note, D-Rod has a good amount of knockout victories, but Kevin Holland, you take a look at his 2 KO losses. It's not like he's getting slept in there. He's very hard to hit. He doesn't get hit flush too often, right? You take a look at those 2 losses. Both of them were TKOs due to him kind of getting injured, right? You think about the Delize fight where he had the rib injury. You think about the Stephen Thompson fight where he wasn't able to get off the stool to go into the 5th round. And that was a fight that he could have used his grappling more so to have snuck off a W potentially, right? So he's not a fighter that's easy to catch with that one-hitter quitter. Can D-Rod hurt him and injure him potentially? I mean, I just think that we're not going to see that. D-Rod's up there in age, and this seems to be Holland's fight. And for any of you guys that have been saying, look, you've been fading Holland all the time and he's been getting you. I mean, you take a look at what's actually been going down. All right. I faded Holland multiple times where I sided with the underdog with RDR, Roman Delize, Michael Page. I faded him against Jack Del Maddalena. Stephen Thompson was an underdog against him. Okay. I faded him quite a bit, even when I was targeting an underdog, and he's taken L's. So let's not act like Holland always comes through. Yes, he's gone out there and he's defeated the fighters that he should have, like a weathered Vicente Luque, a Gunnar Nelson that's very inactive and who's taken damage, Michał Oleksiejczak, Santiago Ponzinibbio, a common opponent of D-Rod. But let's see how Holland looks as he starts to fight the upper echelon fighters in this division. I still think that this is a fighter that I will consistently fade. And I know some of you guys will give me some slack there, but Holland's a minus 360 favorite. He's a big time favorite, and I think he should come through. I mean, I think he should get his hand raised. We'll see how the fight plays out. Don't completely overlook D-Rod, though. If this fight ends up being a war, D-Rod is a dog, but give me Kevin Holland to win a decision. Paulo Costa takes on Roman Kopylov, and I really like what the UFC did here as Costa comes in off a very frustrating loss to Sean Strickland in a fight where he was looking to press the action. He was looking to deliver for the fans. And you guys know Strickland really wasn't having anything of it. He was just kind of, I wouldn't say outclassing him, but he was outperforming him, pumping the jab, using his footwork. He was a step ahead of Costa. Costa is going to have an opportunity here. If he brings that same type of energy to Kopylov, he's going to have an opportunity to really deliver for the fans. Kopylov is going to meet him. Kopylov's going to look to take his head off, and this should be a hell of a fight. All right, and Costa's a fighter that's looked at as a gimmicky fighter. He has that polarizing personality outside of the cage. He's very inactive, but make no mistake, he's a danger striker, and he's a lot tougher than he's given credit for. Speaking of toughness, I'll tell you what, Kopylov is about as tough as it comes, and we saw that on full display early on in his UFC career, where he took an L to Albert Duryov. Blood was everywhere. If you guys remember how that fight played out, it was crazy. There was some controversy with the reffing and all that, but one thing was for certain is that he is extremely tough. He will never look for a way out. And when he kicked off his UFC career, he was very young. He started off 0-2, right? He got submitted by Carl Robertson. It was looking like this was going to be a fighter that was going to come and go and was really never on the level. He quickly turned things around, knockout after knockout. He went out there, finished up Alessio De Chirico, Punale Seriano, Claudio Ribeiro, Josh Fremd. Right? He was submitted by Anthony Hernandez, and in that fight, we saw that when he's pressured and if you fight him with a specific type of style, he can run into adversity. But also note that Fluffy Hernandez is just a different type of animal in this division. Okay, you have to understand that. All right, and what did he do after that? He bounced back with 2 victories in a row. He has the train back on the track. The Cesar Almeida fight was kind of close, so went to a split decision. Right, Almeida, the technical kickboxer, and then against Chris Curtis, that was a close fight as well. He got the finish with 1 second left on the clock. He still would have won that fight if it went to a decision because he hurt Curtis, even if they didn't stop that fight. But that third round was the deciding factor in the fight. Okay, that fight was 1-1 going into the third round. Okay, so these last 2 fights have played out relatively close. If he doesn't go out here and land that flash KO, I do believe that this is a fight that will play out closely. Okay, we're going to get to the betting odds here in a second, and Kopylov is the handed favorite. Okay, but if this fight goes to the judges' scorecards, I believe that this will be a fight that plays out closely. Even if it goes to the judges' scorecards, I still would lean towards Kopylov's way. But if we see a knockout, I think it favors him more so. The only finish we've seen against Costa was Israel Adesanya, but the way Kopylov lands damage, it's dangerous to anybody. Okay, 12 of his 14 victories have come by way of KO. All right, he has nasty hands. His kicking game is disgusting. I could see him landing a nasty body shot, a body kick, a nasty head kick. I mean, something like that is going to be whipping around towards Costa's way, and Costa is there to be hit. Right, he'll look to counter you with his boxing, but I mean, you take a look. He's absorbing 6.5 strikes per minute, although he lands a lot as well. And like I said, he will look to counter, but I could see him being hurt. Even if the fight goes to the judges' scorecards, I still think Kopylov will be a step ahead. I like the speed and the power that he possesses. And these fighters actually have a lot of similarities when you take a look at them. Both 34, both have about the same amount of pro experience. But I like the fact that Kopylov has been much more active throughout the years. I think that he's a little bit more dedicated to his craft. Not saying that Costa is just going out there and messing around. I do believe that he takes the game more serious than some give him credit for, but I still will say that Kopylov is a more dedicated fighter, and I think that he's a fighter that is much more hungry to make a run at the belt or to put more money in his pocket. Costa has more things going on outside the octagon, and I think the more dedicated fighter here in Kopylov finds a way to win this fight. Do I think he's going to get a KO? I'm going to say he doesn't. I'm going to say it does go to the judges' scorecards, and Kopylov is a slight step ahead. I'm going to say he wins 2 of the 3 rounds. I'm going to give Costa 1 of the 3 rounds. Here, we'll take a look at the betting odds. He opened up around a minus 275. He went as low as a minus 205. I think he even touched, minus 200 flat. And now he's back up to a minus 275. So Kopylov is a pretty big favorite here. I'm not crazy about the betting odds. If you're backing Kopylov, I think this has the potential to play out closely. Like I said, I think this fight goes to the judges' scorecards. This could even be a split decision type of fight. But I'll have Kopylov winning a unanimous decision, 29-28. But it could be a split decision. I just don't think you're getting a lot of value targeting him there. Costa has been pretty durable. And if he could weather the storm and get this fight to go 15 minutes, it could play out closely. Here we go. The main event, Dustin Poirier's retirement bout. He looks to take on Max Holloway for the 3rd time. He prevailed both of the first 2 fights. Those first 2 matches were very different from each other, as is this final one. There's no question about it. Max Holloway, first off, has matured so much throughout the years. When you take a look at that first bout, he was a complete kid. He got submitted. In the rematch, Holloway, the strikes were actually very close when you take a look at the numbers, but Holloway was a step behind as Poirier was landing the much more significant strikes, mostly with his hands. And now going into this matchup, the main thing that stands out to me is, of course, the fact that Holloway is in his more prime years at 33, while Poirier is creeping up on 37 years old. And quite obviously, as this is his retirement fight, okay, he has 1 foot out the door. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't train more than ever. You could say it actually motivates you. If it's your last fight, you're going to train for it even more than ever. But you also have to look at it as, okay, he's mentally creeping outside of fighting. Well, on the other hand, Holloway, he's 33 years old. I think that he still is looking to make a run at gold, whether it's in the featherweight division, in the lightweight division. Hopefully it's in the lightweight division. I think he's much better suited in this weight class. We'll talk about the last time we saw him fighting at 155, but I quickly just want to say, got to tip my hat to Dustin Poirier. As a lot of you guys know, I'm an old timer, right? I'm a long time fight fan. I've been watching fights from way back in the day. I was big into the WEC, right? That was, for whatever reason, I loved the WEC that was on that channel Versus. I was in college at the time, and I remember being very excited as I was watching DP come into the WEC. He went out there and he had a first-round knockout over Zach Mickelwright, which was a fighter I was very familiar with from back then. And from there, in his UFC debut, he took out Josh Grisby, which Grisby was the big-time fighter down at 145 back in the day over there in the WEC. He was the fighter that had all the hype behind him, the Bostonian. So when DP went out there and defeated him, first off, you saw both of their careers go in completely different trajectories, right? Grisby eventually started taking L's and just dissipated from the sport, while DP went on to just make a hell of a run in the UFC and started off in the featherweight division. He worked his way up to the lightweight division. I remember as he got matched up with Diego Ferreira in that lightweight debut, I was having my question marks about how he would look. We didn't really have a large sample size of fighters coming up in weight and having a lot of success. We would kind of look at a smaller fighter coming up in weight like he had his back up against the wall. But DP was one of the first fighters to really showcase that there's a lot of benefits when you're not cutting the weight. And a lot of those fighters that started to follow in his path of jumping up in weight and not doing the cut started to have a lot of success, right? I forget exactly around that time what Frankie Edgar was doing, but Frankie Edgar, obviously another fighter that really showcased that. And DP, the amount of entertainment that he has put on for us, you just have to tip your hat to him. And although this isn't a UFC title bout, this is a fight that has a lot of energy behind it, right? The BMF title is on the line, so take that for what you will. But the fact that this is a retirement fight and the whole world is watching, Poirier has built up such a fan base. He's kind of one of the rare mainstream UFC fighters, and the world's going to be watching. I think DP knows that, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders, okay? On the other hand, Max Holloway, he's already lost twice to DP. He should be, hungrier to get that payback on him. I don't think he has as much pressure on him at the same time with him already taking those L's just the overall recipe is there's more pressure on DP, and I think that that's going to kind of favor Holloway. And that's going to bring me to the main thing I want to talk about. I just thought that Max Holloway looked so phenomenal when he was last in the lightweight division, when he went out there and completely outclassed Justin Gaethje. It wasn't just the fact that he got that knockout with 1 second left. Remember, guys, he absolutely outclassed Justin Gaethje. If you want to do a little bit of recent MMA math, of course, Justin Gaethje hit Poirier with that head kick. He knocked him out. And if you want to bring up the fact that Ilia Topuria just finished Max Holloway, which of course you should bring up. I mean, look who Ilia Topuria is, man. Okay, he is just a phenomenal striker. One of the best that the game has ever seen, one of the most phenomenal KO artists we've ever seen. So don't put him under the magnifying glass too much for that loss. I think Holloway should be able to bounce back. I think the durability still should be there. He's 33 years old, and I think that he'll be able to withstand the power strikes that Poirier throws his way. And my gut is just telling me that Max Holloway is going to get redemption here. I think that we're going to see Holloway pick right back up off of that last lightweight performance against Justin Gaethje. I think you're going to see excellent movement from him. I think you're going to see the volume hitting on all cylinders, and I think he's going to get redemption here. You take a look at the numbers. I think we're going to see a little bit of this where Holloway typically has better output than Poirier. Poirier will be looking to land those power strikes, and you do have to take into consideration that the crowd's going to be backing Poirier, and if any of these rounds are close, you could expect Poirier to snag some of those closer rounds. But I can't, even with that being said, which was almost a deciding factor for me to side with Poirier, I can't turn my back on what I'm feeling. And I'm just feeling that Holloway is going to be when I say a clear step ahead, I don't mean massively like he's going to dominate rounds, but he's going to be a clear step ahead where forget about where they're fighting. If you're just critiquing the fight, you're watching it round to round. I think Holloway is going to outvolume and outpoint Poirier here. Okay. And I think that if we actually see a fighter get hurt, I actually do believe that it would be Poirier. That is the fighter that gets wobbled up and hurt. All right. He's taken a lot of damage throughout the years. I know he's as durable as it comes. Okay. And you have to take note as well. He's coming off a torn ACL. I believe he tore his ACL. Okay. So he had broken ribs. He had a broken nose in his last fight. His body is weathered. It's beaten. And he took a lot of damage against BSD before he came back and got the comeback victory there. Holloway is not that type of fighter. He's not going to leave an opening like BSD did. And I think that this is a redemption spot for Max Holloway. And you guys know I'm a big fan of DP. I mean, I started this whole segment off with talking about that. I'm a big fan of Max Holloway's as well, as a lot of you guys that are listening are, right? A lot of you guys are major fans of both these fighters. They're so likable. So, I mean, there's no bias going on here. I'm going to say that Max Holloway wins this fight by getting the volume edge. This should be a kickboxing match. Of course, it'll be nothing like the first time they fought when Holloway had no grappling abilities. Back then, he was getting taken down by fighters like Conor McGregor and DP, right? He put him in that inverted armbar. He mounted him. I mean, this is a different fight. This is going to be a stand-up fight. And I say that Holloway gets a big-time redemption victory with the world watching. And as DP goes into retirement, you'll see him in the booth doing some commentary. Holloway is going to set himself up for some major fights moving forward after getting the W here. I say Holloway gets a split decision victory. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this thing up. I greatly appreciate you for hanging out with me throughout it. You guys know I got to hit you with some parting words. First and foremost, don't forget, guys, if you want to work with me, shoot me an email or a DM. I'll give you further details there. I have that offer. If you sign up through my referral link, I'll give you my entire slate for free. Okay. But to the parting words, probably have kind of recited this before, but this is something that I've really been feeling here over the last couple months. I think I've mentioned it, but I've cleaned my diet up so much, guys. And one thing that I've noticed that has really caught my attention is the fact that I started to dream a lot again recently. And I think that that's a correlation to just cutting out all of these artificial foods that are everywhere. I challenge all of you guys out there to just eat whole foods, limit all of the processed stuff, all the sugars. I challenge all of you guys to do that, to do it for weeks, for months at a time, and see if you don't feel differently. See if you don't feel, not only if you look better, but see and feel better, but see if you don't think better. See if you don't notice that you're starting to dream or you're starting to have these intuitions and feelings like you did when you were younger. There's a lot of studies on this stuff, man. You could see what happens to rats if you feed rats the average American diet, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to, they did this one test where the rats would, if you drop them in the water, they would swim up to the floating log in the middle, quite obviously to stay out of the water, not to drown. They started feeding these rats a typical American diet, and these rats are swimming in circles in the water. They're caught up in the fog, and I think a lot of us have been caught up in the fog based off what's constantly thrown in our faces. It's not just the food, okay? If you're putting on lotions on your body and stuff like that, there's stuff that's like #1 doctor recommended stuff that you take a look at what's in it. It makes no sense that these are the things that are recommended as far as lotion goes, as all these chemicals in it. It makes no sense, right? You would think they would be recommending stuff that's more natural. There's these beautiful lotions out there that are you know, they have all types of natural oils in them and stuff like that, and they do just as good for your body. So it's your job to dive into to all the stuff. Don't take anybody's word about any of these situations when it comes to your health. Do not take anybody else's word. Do your own research. Use your own mind, and first and foremost, get your mind out of the fog. So clean your diets up. All right, I'll leave you guys with that, and I challenge you guys to better yourself and to better your diet. All right, you guys should all be feeling better, and you should be living a better life. All right, guys, signing out. Teller.
The teller.